Hello, everybody. This is JJ Hardy here with Victory Leadership Coaching, and this is another episode of Victory Leaders Lounge. Today, I have a wonderful guest here. I had a great conversation with her the other day. Her name is Cass Murray. She's a recruiter, but she's a lot more than that, and I'll let her tell her story here in just a second. Cass, do you want to give your formal introduction and just tell us who you are, what you do, and why you do it?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks so much. I really appreciate you having me here. It just means a lot. Oh my gosh, how exciting. Well, yes, I am a recruiter. I'm a headhunter at heart. And I'm also a lifelong learner, which we were just talking about. My degree was in sociology, and I just find it really interesting how people work together, how they grow together, how they even maybe learn together. And as a recruiter for over the past couple of decades, I've recognized this huge gap in just knowledge for job seekers to understand the back end of the recruiting process. And while many companies they're all different, right? So we get into the interview process and we're excited about looking for a new opportunity, and it's always something different, right? But for the most part, it's very similar across organizations because of federal laws, different state laws. And I think once you understand the back end or the expectations in the process, then you can manage and maneuver it a lot better. But some of the things that I've been doing lately focus more on educating job seekers on how to stand out, what I call, and what my mentor, and I'll name drop in a minute, but my mentor talks about this big red, choppy shark infested sea. And that's where we don't want to be. We want to kind of like go around the back door and talk to the hiring manager face to face if we can. And generally it's through a very strategic way to build a relationship is really what it is. Mm-hmm. So when you think about how we organically start to have conversations with people, we don't walk up to them and say, "Hey, how you doing? I got a job. Here's your resume." No. And I think that's the difference between people who don't have a good understanding of what's going on in the background and maybe people who do, and they do take that kind of backdoor approach to job seeking, networking. And that's really what I've been focusing my past about 5 years on, is digging really deep into other people's experiences, not to mention looking at people out there in multiple industries that are successful and do present consistently themselves as a top performer in their industry. And I think one of the things that you'll find, as long as I'm not rambling too hard, you'll see in social media, the people that we perceive as successful are the people that we see.
Yeah.
Right? So something that my mentor, David Stephen Patterson, which I hope you speak with him sometime, he would absolutely love this entire venue and everything that you're doing, which I so appreciate. And I feel really blessed to be here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyway, when we think about who really exudes top performance-ship, are people that you see, people that are out on the red carpet, right? People that are in social media and they get all those likes and hits. And you can buy a lot of likes and hits. That's not a big deal. But people want to see you. So they're not necessarily judging you on how many other people liked your content, but more so what the content is. Mm-hmm. And these days, 2024, and to me, sociology has everything to do with this, social media, right? So when you really look at the people that are killing it out there in social media, it's because they are curating a very tight group of people that are focused on one agenda. And that is fill in the blank, right? Mm-hmm. Whatever that means to you. So as a job seeker, which is something that is so important right now, as there's so many people that are unemployed, it's just incredible, the shift and change. And I think we saw this for like the past 10 years. If anybody's got their head up above the clouds and looking down and saying, wow, Shopify. Okay. That was when I got my first inkling. I was in the beauty industry in corporate recruitment, and we're going through salespeople left and right. And salespeople, it was harder and harder and harder to fill the position, because you're talking about outbound salespeople walking up and knocking on company doors, dermatologists, plastic surgeons, estheticians, salons, spas. And what happened was, a lot of times these people would walk into these companies and they want to present the product, but the company already has their own product, or maybe they're selling multiple products via Shopify. So Shopify was the first real smack in the head for a lot of, and I'm talking about across entire industries. It's not just the beauty industry. Anybody can buy things. I mean, Amazon, you've got all this going on. So in this age that we're seeing now, of where technology is really starting to make some serious changes, we need to be prepared to either grow and adapt, or, in my industry, we say adapt or die, we use some pretty hard words, but I mean, that's literally what it is. So I spent a lot of time personally, in my own time, outside of my own work, going out into different industries and finding out who's being successful, like who are the people that are emerging and what are they doing. So when you take a look at that, you'll see this entire consistency across the board of people that are starting to share more about the back end of their industry, and they're attracting and gaining followers in a very nice tight group of people where they can have a very in-depth conversation. But the people who facilitate those conversations, JJ, for instance, are viewed as top performers because they're so intelligent. They share the knowledge that they have. So people get to know who you are. They learn how to trust you, and you're building trust via multiple platforms. And this is where we're headed in an age for job seekers. And I feel like that's the only way to really do that today.
That's interesting. I learned that, and that's why I do what I do. But more than that, there are just so many social issues that need awareness brought to them.
Yes.
I mean, I wanted to share a statistic. So I'm a retired military guy, so obviously I'm going to advocate for veteran joblessness and homelessness.
Yes, thank
and stuff
you for
like that.
too.
Oh, of course. But I mean, there are right now 86,000, and this was a January statistic. It hasn't been updated, but 86,000 veterans are out there homeless right now. And I will just go ahead and say that one of the reasons that happens, and it's a varying statistic, they update this regularly, and I didn't pull it up before this call, but when they transition from the military, the preparation is not there. Although there's a certain amount of accountability for each and every single one of us going out into the workforce to figure out what to do. What you just got done discussing is not talked about. They don't teach you how to network out in the civilian world.
Rarely.
I mean, they don't tell you that you can go to chamber events or association events and just meet people. They don't tell you that you can go on. They say you can get a free LinkedIn account, and they say you should network on LinkedIn, but they don't give you the strategy behind that. They don't tell you that you go to the organizations with the jobs that you're interested and connect with people and get to know them. They don't tell you that you gotta start throwing maybe just a little bit of content out there just to show your legitimacy and show that there is value in you, because now it's not just a resume. It's what you know.
Resumes are for the 90s. I'm so sorry.
90s.
They really are. I've been in recruitment for many, many years now. And I mean, They were paper resumes. We still even format them like paper resumes.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, there's so many things that people, when they hear this, they say, oh my gosh, you're so right. And I can't tell you the conversations that I've had with adults that, I mean, we're not talking about college grads. We're talking about established professionals in their industry that say, you know, Cass, I'm banging my head up against a wall. I don't know what to do next. I'm overwhelmed. Job seeking is just such a huge thing. Like, I know I need to network, but where do I start? I've done this, I've done that, I've done that. And that's a lot of times where my conversations go. And I love that you brought this up, because there is a huge gap in so many different groups that need to be aware. One of the ones that I'm passionate about as well are young mothers who maybe they don't know how to get out of it. And that was kind of like where I started. I'm a non-traditional learner. I didn't finish my degree until I think 2015. I try not to keep track of it. Frankly, because it's like kind of a little embarrassing, you know, sometimes in some circles. So I'll just say, yeah, I'm sociology degreed. But I mean, you know, I married really young. I did marry a service person, and I moved away from my family. So I never had any support. And it was just kind of like a really rocky life, you know, just back and forth and not really having any tethers to anything. Growing up, I just felt like education was really for the rich. And that really was the culture back in the day, back in the late 70s and early 80s.
Actually,
Yeah.
it still is. You know,
Yes.
I come from a very poor background, and, you know, a lot of my family members are like, oh, you know, you can go out there and take all the school you want because you have all these benefits and you have all this money and all this other stuff. Well, guess what? I'm running out of my education benefits, and you know, I will pay the money when it comes time for me to start using my own money, because, you know, it's not about having that paper degree. It's not. It's about how can you use this knowledge to serve other people. And you know, that's the type of people with that mindset that we need in the workplace. So hopefully that's something that you can help people identify.
Absolutely. And let me be clear, because I think a lot of times I'm not always very clear about this, but I absolutely believe that it's up to you to decide if you want to pursue higher education. Okay. So as we know, there's problems with public schools and you don't get everything that you need. Fortunately for me, I was, obviously I grew up very poor, and my mother was a server. We call them servers now. At the time, she was a waitress. And we moved around a lot. We were homeless. We slept out of the car. I mean, we did everything. And I still had to brush my teeth somehow, find a bathroom to get some water and get ready to go to school every single day. So, she pushed me out the door, out you go, into the world. And I just really didn't feel like I had a lot of opportunities. I felt more like I was going to school because, you know, this was a great opportunity for her to be able to go to work. Right. So, and that's the way a lot of us grew up. So I'm not saying I'm one of a kind here.
Nope.
And
you
to
and
this
I.
day, exactly right. It still happens. But I mean, you know, if you don't feel like pursuing a college education is for you right now, I would say don't do it, because it's a commitment. It's a 4-year commitment for a bachelor's degree, 2-year for associate degree. Further than that, yes, bless you, right? So anything it took, and I never really feel too guilty. Ultimately, I feel like I did the right thing ultimately, because you can't look back. You can't change the past. You need to look ahead every day. And I do feel very fortunate that I looked around and I said, I know I need this degree, because I was pursuing things that were above my education level. And when I was growing up, I was a very hefty reader. I loved to read everything. Sci-fi, horror novels. It was romance novels that my mom said, here you go, I'm done, So but the idea to be able to have that experience, to be like absorbed in reading, is the only thing that really kept me going, I think, ultimately, because I did not have a lot of opportunity. So I think whether you feel like you have opportunity or you don't, take higher education seriously. Decide what you want to do. Get help is what I tell people all the time. Like, don't try to do this yourself. Stop trying to do this yourself. Reach out to your mentors. And if I could give any advice to anyone in any group, I would say find a handful of people that you respect.
Yes.
You feel that they do good work every day and that you would love to sit next to them every single day and help them achieve their goals. Find those people and find out what they do. And, a lot of times when I work with people, they say, I don't have any mentors, You don't need permission to get a mentor. I made a post yesterday on LinkedIn and I tagged about 5 of my mentors in one post. And it's like my every other month I am so grateful to these people for writing these books that I can use now to help me not only grow my own self professionally, but to be able to help other people that I feel need help to bridge that gap of what it's going to take to get from here to there.
Yeah. And, there people that don't feel like they have any opportunities, I call that, because I came from it, I call that a failure loop. When you get stuck in depression, you almost get addicted to it. When you get stuck in poverty, you almost get addicted to it. And you don't really see a way out of that unless you find somebody that is doing all kinds of things that maybe came from your neighborhood or something like that, that rose above it and they're doing great things. And then it just sparks a thought in your mind, like, how did you do that?
It really does.
It does. And, there are opportunities that anybody can do, right? So we need people in the trades. You can make a very good living in the trades and you don't even necessarily need training. And you could go into the military. You could be a firefighter. You can be a police officer. And those are low barrier to entry professions that are so needed all the time. Although it's kind of harder to get into the military right now, but that'll change. They get rid of a lot of people and then they realize they made a mistake and now we're at war again. And so we need to bring a whole bunch more people on. That's like a loop that the military does. They get rid of people right as they need them.
Yeah, I'm not super familiar with that entire lifestyle. My family, the men on the side of the family, and I'll say this because I am of the generation that's exactly what happened. They would all go into the military and the women did not enter the military at that time. So now, fortunately, I have nieces that are in the service now. So I'm like proud to say this is how they were able to achieve not only trades experience, but to have that opportunity when they leave the service to get that education if that's something that they're interested in. But, I think the biggest, most important part is if you feel like you're trapped in that loop, you need to reach out. You have to get help. And the community programs aren't funded enough. Even the federally funded programs aren't funded enough. No. And you see this over and over and over. And I've just, it's just so sad. So you need to reach out outside of that circle. You need to go out. And these days, almost everybody has an internet connection. There's a library if you don't have it. There are services, I believe now, that if you're under a certain income limit, then you can receive service from Comcast. I don't know. Probably not Starlink. I don't know.
Well, it depends where you are, but usually they have something. Yes, you're
Good
correct.
to know. Yeah, I agree. I know that there are these huge pockets of people in poverty in areas where there isn't internet service, in
Yep.
places like Arkansas, or I don't want to just list off just any specific state names, but places where you will find it's not very built up, and it may be beautiful country, but they don't necessarily have a lot of opportunities. So there's a lot of challenge out there still to this day. I think
Yep.
we forget how fortunate we are to be able to speak to each other. I'm in Denver, by the way. I guess I didn't really introduce myself very well.
Well, you did just fine. And you know what? I think your identity is probably what you started with. And I noticed that whenever I do one of these podcasts, what people are most passionate about is what they lead with, because it's so easy to just go on with. And so the fact that you're passionate about educating people on how to find jobs, how to
Right.
network, and how to get themselves out there, I think that's a great introduction. Colorado, I'm in Iowa, which
Wow.
what the heck is there in Iowa? I mean,
Corn, I think.
there's a
I
lot of
don't
corn.
know.
I mean, you definitely won't miss the corn if you drive through Iowa. It's
Wow.
everywhere you drive. But the fact that we're able to be on two different
Yes.
geographical locations within the country and still connect means that if you don't like the situation you're in, network with somebody who
Yes.
can get you out of it.
Yes. Yes. And don't let anything stop you. Don't,
Yeah.
when I was growing up, I didn't want to go out because I just felt like, I'm not the same as everyone else. I'm not as pretty. I'm not as knowledgeable. I'm not as smart. I'm not as educated. And it was always, to me, I felt like I always lived in the shadows. And I think, after when I got older, I realized, to hell with that. I'm great. Who doesn't like me?
Right.
Why wouldn't they? And so I started actually getting out there and meeting people.
Well, and so I always tell this story, and this goes completely perfect with the conversation we're having right now. And it's about a girl who was given a car by her father, and he said, you can either drive it or you can sell it. Well, she didn't like the car specifically, so she decided she was going to sell it. She took that car over to the dealership, and they were going to give her $1,500 for the car. She felt it was worth more than that. And so she posted it publicly on the internet, and she had somebody offer her $3,000 for it.
Wow.
But then she took it over to a car show, and she didn't put a price in the window. She just put for sale, and somebody offered her $50,000 for it. And that was because it was a classic car. It was this particular example. It was a 69 Camaro. And, it didn't look the prettiest, or it wasn't like the best thing. But, once you find the place for you that somebody will see your value,
right,
everything changes for you. And in this example, that car just so happened to be seen by collectors, and that was the right environment. So when you can identify who you are, then you can start identifying where you want to be. And then when you can find those people that just appreciate you for who you are, you're never going to have to really struggle again. And you just realize that you have value in you. And there's not anything that anybody can do to take that value away unless you take it away from yourself.
I love it. There's every relevance to what you just said and that story. And that's why in my 4 Frustrated Job Seekers newsletter, we talk about that. But the program that I have, it goes into you and who you are and what your motivators are. Because as a headhunter recruiter looking from the outside in to the job seeker market, I always want to try to figure out, like, who's the person who's going to accept this offer because it's right for them. Obviously right for the company, sure, because that's my job. That's how I get paid. But I also want to make sure that it's right for you. And if it takes a half hour, 15-minute, 1-hour conversation with a candidate to establish, is this a good location? What about your compensation? What does this mean to you and your family? That's what's important. And I think job seekers get too excited, and there's too much like desperation is the unfortunate part. Now, don't get me wrong, because I get a lot of flame about this online. People will say, well, don't be like that because you're a recruiter. If I need a job now, I need a job now. Yes, you do. But what I'm telling you is that you need to, at some point in your life, step away from your career and take a look from the outside in and say, what do I need to do to identify the problems that I have so that I never have to worry about having no paycheck? Because the program that I have talks about getting your paycheck back. And that's all that it's about. It's about, what can I do to get my paycheck back? Because that's what we care about, right? We need to be able to support ourselves. We need to be able to take care of our families. And so ultimately, those are the offers that are getting signed, sealed, in your start date. That's where we want to focus on, not all these other distractions and even networking that's not relevant to your industry. So it all starts from within you and realizing your value and your worth, also realizing where you have gaps, because if you want this, you have to work to it. It's not going to just happen.
Nope.
Sometimes, like for me, it took me 50 years to become the person that I can look in the mirror and say, dang, girl, you're killing it. So I'm happy about that. And I'm getting out there, and that's very important to me.
Yep. And you're doing great things.
Thanks.
Cass Murray, everybody. Now, do you have any closing comments before we kind of end the live stream today?
I do. If you have opportunity to get on the internet, go check me out on LinkedIn. I'm on a bunch of other platforms too, but LinkedIn most prevalently because that's my industry. All you got to do is type in the search bar, Cass Murray, and you're going to see my face. I hope we connect.
And that is CASSMURRAY, everybody.
Yes.
Cass Murray. Connect with her. I promise you're not going to have a bad conversation. So thank you, Cass, for being a guest on the show today. And thank you for everybody who listened up to this point, either now or at some point whenever this was aired. So this was another episode of Victory Leaders Lounge. My name is JJ Hardy, and we will see you on the next episode.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.